Okay, listen up. I want to talk to you about a very powerful event that happened to me a few months ago. Now, to put it in perspective, for since about the age of 14, uh, I always believed that the only possible thing that I could do that made any sense to me was to commit suicide, right? Now, some people won't like to hear this, but before I start to talk, I got to say I'm in a good place now, and this video is about how these thoughts all ended. So, for 15 years, that was just seemed like everyone's been through, short stages of this. I imagine everyone thinks about suicide once in a while, and it seems like the little puddles of good that you splash and jump in with your wellies on your road through life doesn't seem worth the trudging, the journey. The positive doesn't seem worth the negative. It seems like an imbalance, and you think the only thing that makes any sense for you, for your happiness, as stupid as that sounds, you're not going to have any happiness if you don't exist. But anyway, you know what I mean. We've all felt that. I just felt it for a very long time, man. Anyway, and then one night, I was on drugs, obviously, and so I'm going to call this a hallucination. That's what I believe it was, really. My subconscious talking to me and stuff. A lot of people would call it a divine intervention or God speaking to them if they experienced something as powerful as this, because they just wouldn't really know how to. That's the only way they can comprehend it. So if people need to look at things in that sort of way for life to work for them, that's fine by me. So I'd taken some various drugs, don't need to go into that, but then I had a little cannabis, right, and that tipped me right over the edge. And I'd taken some dissociative drugs, so my brain was already somewhat, or my mind was somewhat separated from my body, and this tipped me right over the edge, and I lay down on a bed, shaking, shivering, and sweating, and then I left my body, and I was blooming stood there or floating there or something, looking down on this sweating, shivering organism, right? And then the dude stands next to me. This is what some people would call God, right? I'll call him God to give him a name, right? It was obviously my subconscious, right? God says, dude, right? Do you understand? When people say you get one life and all, have you ever actually drummed that into your thick skull, right? This is your organism here, stressed and shaking, and you only get one organism, right? Think about that for a second. And I was like, yeah, okay. The dude says, man, this organism is so stressed, you're not doing with it what you're supposed to do. People would use metaphors about, putting shit fuel in cars and crap like that, whatever you want to say. Use whatever metaphor works for you. This is just what my subconscious said at the time, right? So, and then he pointed out loads of muscles that were real aching. I didn't even realise I was stressed before this, so thanks, brain, for telling me that one. So I've been able to start working on those since. Anyway, I thought I was going to die, as we often do in these sort of situations. And death trips, we've all, lots of people been through them. And so, and he was like, okay, so, you can go if you want. Just slip away now if you want. No, I don't mind. or I can give you one more chance. And I realised at that moment that I didn't want to exit just yet. So I took the second chance, and or millionth chance, whatever you want to call it. And then he says, dude, I just want to show you one more thing. And then my sense of self, my entire being, myself, my body/organism, my mind, my soul, all of that shit, whatever people believe in, just went and it expanded out from within the confines of my own skin. And came out, and my sense of self and what was me became not just what we traditionally think of as the mind and the body, but it became everything I've touched, every cause and effects chain reaction that I've instigated, and every thought about me and other people's minds. This all became incorporated into my self. So then I realised that if your organism dies, even if your mind continues, I don't know how that works yet, but then yourself still doesn't die. So you're still on the planet, in the world, in the minds of people, and the actions that you've affected, the things you've done, the objects you've physically moved around the world, they're still there. And so you don't even die. All that happens is you give up your ability to affect yourself, but yourself still blooming exists. So you've just ballsed up if you do that. Yeah. So that was a good realisation. I mean, everyone's used lots of other metaphors for this before about, you still live on in other people's memories and crap like that, and but again, I just fully understood this concept at this moment in time. So anyway, I guess I came back down into my body, and I must have managed to fall asleep at some point that night. And now suicide's popped into my head once or twice since then, but then I just immediately go, hang on, remember that stuff, and it just pushes it out straight away. So I would recommend that everyone gives that a try. Try and imagine your sense of self being everything that you've touched, everything you've created and affected, and it gives you a lot more sense of self-worth. Now this video is running really long, I apologise, I hope it hasn't been too much of a ramble. So I'm feeling really good now. I hope this video don't come across negatively, because it's a really good thing. As I say, these concepts have all been discussed before, but they was just pointed out to me by my subconscious, which many people would interpret as God. I think they do often think, especially with things like coincidences and stuff like that. I don't think coincidences are your subconscious just pointing things out to you, because it only points out what it wants you to know. So, say I thought about that person, then saw him in the street immediately. Yeah, but you only noticed that because it's something you just thought about. So it don't make no sense, really. It's just, I'm not saying there's no God, but I mean, everyone's got to figure that shit out themselves, haven't they? But there's certainly no interfering God that gives us divine messages, and I don't think so. It's all the subconscious. It's really powerful. So listen to it when it talks to you. It's got some good shit to say. There's knowledge within us, man. Subscribe to these videos. Boom.